Today I'm hosting the Heroic. Hi, I'm Tim, and today I'm hosting the Heroic Council by featured guests, council members Jeff Gibbard and Sarah Hansian. Make sure to tune in every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, where we get together and talk about work and answer your questions. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform, on YouTube, or join the Facebook group. All of the info can be found at superheroinstitute.org/heroic, and all links will be in the show notes. Remember, if you love the show, the best thing you can do is leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Let's get started.
Oh, let's do the video. Ready? Here it goes. Boom. This podcast is part of the Shareable Podcast Network. Learn more at shareable.fm. One thing I didn't do during the break is change the aspect ratio of that because it's still stretching. So I gotta fix that. Yeah.
That's good.
That's all right though.
Yeah.
You know what?
Just
These things
a little
happen. It's okay.
Yeah.
Also, we didn't like enthusiastically like fireworks that we're back. Like we've been gone for a month. Like people have missed us. They must have like really missed us.
I was going to say, I'm really excited to be back. I missed this. I missed doing it. I missed the interaction. It's fun. So
I missed you guys, even though I saw you like a crap ton over the whole break. But still, I missed you guys.
Yeah, well, we're ready for a new and improved Heroic Council. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
yeah.
Yeah, let's do this.
So you guys built a business in a weekend called So Productive. Can you tell me a little bit about like what we're going to learn today?
So quick correction. Sarah already had So Productive. We built Super Productive.
Super Productive. That's right.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
built Super Productive. Yeah, so I guess I'll kick this off and then Sarah chime in. But so Sarah and I both are Asana certified pros, and when we knew about that for a little bit. Sarah's the one who actually told me about the program, and once she told me about it, I became an Asana certified pro because we've both been using it for a long time. And then at some point, like shortly after, we were like, we should probably just join forces and do this together. So we thought about putting together a business, and today we're going to talk about how we basically did that over the course of roughly 48 hours, or, we built I would say the bulk of the business, like to be able to start getting clients and generating revenue in one day over the course of a weekend. But up to this point, we've probably invested about 48 hours or less to building this whole business. Sarah, what'd I leave out?
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, Asana is a task management tool. So it's just helpful for the point of the conversation to kind of understand what we're talking about when we're talking about Asana. But it's a great program. Jeff and I have used it for many years, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Cool. So before we get started, what are 2 or 3 things that you think are super important that helped you guys actually be able to pull this endeavor off?
Sarah, you want to kick us off with that?
I mean, I think what's important when you're starting anything, and this is the C in the productivity system I have, right, is to get clarity around it. So really, before we started, we really had a concept for a bigger vision. We really had a sense of a goal. What are we trying to accomplish here in the first place? And what can we do? What skill sets do we both bring to the table? How can we complement each other? So essentially figuring out, do we have something here? And if we do, what exactly is it? And so I think having that kind of initial thing figured out was really a good way to start.
Yeah, I think kind of to piggyback off of that would be, and Sarah, you said this. I think if I'm gonna try and paraphrase what you said earlier when we were talking about this, kind of getting in preparation of it. But I think you said we were aligned on the goals and then complementary in the skill set, right? So like we both knew where we wanted to go with it, but we also were very clear on kind of like the roles and responsibility to get there. So I think that I think that that's super important. The one that I would say that jumps to mind for me that's really important is we started with the important things first. So like we knew what we wanted to accomplish, which was to start a business where we could work together and make money both as Asana certified pros, combining our knowledge, the whole thing. So we knew that was what our goal was. So we kind of dispensed with like a lot of the not important stuff, like, choosing what font we would use or something. Like we did figure that out, but we kind of glossed over it and went straight to things like what are our sales and what are we going to offer? Like what's our pricing and what sort of services are we going to offer? So we got like right into the most important stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then I actually do think there's one more thing that's super critical. Tim, you'll love this. Because it's something that we all talk about a lot. But I think the thing that's like the real secret to the Blitz, and actually why we're going to talk about like how we did this so quickly, the only way that you can really make a Blitz work, I think, is that you have to be committed that in the time that you're going to get together, whatever it is, you're going to create, produce, publish, get it out there. Like you're going to be done with it. If you set aside 4 hours, in those 4 hours, whatever happens, you are going to get that thing done, whatever it is. And even if it's not perfect, in fact, even in some cases, if it's not good, like we launched, and we're going to talk more about this later, but we did launch the website with 3 testimonials, but one of them was like the stock testimonial that came with the template and a stock photo. And we literally just changed it earlier today, the 3rd one. So like when we talk about launching imperfect, I mean, like we did build a website in like an hour and a half, but there were a few things that were still kind of missing. So I think the 3rd thing about it is like, yeah, we were aligned on our goals. We were clear on our strengths and our skills. We, got to the important stuff first, but then we were also committed that we were going to publish even if it wasn't completely finished.
Yeah. And the other part about really kind of aligning on the goals was Jeff and I both had some experiences that we brought to the table, and we also knew where clients' pain points were. So it wasn't like we said, let's start a business. What should it be? Blah, blah. We really kind of came in going, these are some pain points that we know clients have. How can we help to solve those problems? So we really identified pain and problem. And I think that's what helped us also get this done so quickly, is there was like this driving force that we knew we knew we had a solution to a very real problem.
So can you walk me through some of the steps you took to get this done in a weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, what I think is going to be really freaking cool about this, and why I was actually really excited for you to be the one to like host this episode and pick our brains about it, is that you and I still have to go and do this. So like we have our business idea that we're going to be teaming up on, and we're going to have to go through a similar kind of process. I mean, we could obviously do different processes, but this one works so well for us to be able to launch a business that like I'm really excited for us to do something similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so day one. So actually, even before day one, let's talk about like what did we do even before we even got started. So the kind of the genesis of this whole thing is very similar to kind of the point Tim, you and I are at, which is like we had a name, we had a domain name, and we had an idea. Like that was like the basics of everything here. And again, this could be used for any kind of like what we're going to go through today. Like this can be used for any kind of blitzing, any kind of work. Like you want to work on a new service offering, you want to build a lead magnet, like whatever you're trying to do, like it's all kind of the same thing. Like as long as you have an idea in mind of like what you want it to be and maybe a name, you don't even really need that, but like let's say you have a name, it's a good starting point because you're kind of like, okay, this is the project. We kind of aligned on that. So Sarah and I combined our 2 company names, Superhero Institute and So Productive, to create Super Productive. Very clever, obviously. And I went and I bought the domain name. We talked about, should it be like, we couldn't get superproductive.com because somebody has that. So we got getsuperproductive.com because we wanted a .com. And we had a couple different ones that we tossed around, but that's the one we landed on. And that was basically before we ever got together to do anything. Like we had a domain name, we had a company name, and we had an idea of what we wanted to do together, but we still weren't like selling anything. So when we decided to do day one, both Sarah and I were very clear that specifically because of the way that I work, it was just never going to happen if she had to keep trying to like wrangle me in to like put this project together. But like we both are very clear, like you lock me in a room for 4 to 8 hours, like I'm going to crush in that 4 to 8 hours. And then like expect not to see much of me in between those sessions. So we knew that a blitz was a good way of working. We've worked together like that before, maybe not to this degree. So this was our first actual blitz. So Sarah, why don't you talk a little bit about like kind of what our thought process was behind that? Because a lot of this, like I'm very tactical about it. I was like, okay, what are the things we're going to cover in this? But I think you have a really good perspective on like what actually made it work.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, you already mentioned it, like setting aside that time, which I think accomplishes a couple things. One, it really states a commitment, right? The first day we actually took a Saturday away from our loved ones and our free time, and we committed to doing this thing. And I think what that shows, yourself, if you're working on something alone, or the partner that you're working with, that like, I'm committed, I'm willing to do this, I'm willing to give up hours or a whole day or a whole weekend to do this with you. And I just think that's significant to really reinforce why are we doing this and our commitment to doing it. So I think that's important. We also, obviously, we blocked out an entire day for the first one. That was a really big deal because, again, I'm really big into block scheduling. I'm really big into getting into the state of flow. It takes a while for your brain to get into the right headspace to even start working. You don't want to say, okay, we're going to work for 30 minutes and then be done. So it was a really good way for us to make sure we blocked out hours of time so that we could really, commit to getting some stuff done. The other major thing was the environment. So we got a room at WeWork. We went to Northern Liberties and we eliminated all our distractions. So Jeff's baby is adorable, but she's a distraction. My puppy is great. He's a distraction. So we didn't go to my house or his house or a noisy Starbucks. Like, we went into an environment where we could hear each other. We had whiteboards. We had access to caffeine and water, and we could really focus in. So I think setting yourself up in the right environment is really, really important.
Tim, can I ask you a question? Because it
Sure.
came to mind as Sarah was talking about the time commitment. I think you and I probably are similar in this way, but I'm curious. So if I have a full day in front of me and my calendar is wide open, but I have a thing that I'm going to work on, I'm probably going to get that done. If I have a full day, say 8 hours in front of me, and I have a meeting in 3 hours, I'm going to get a quarter of the work done.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Because I feel paralyzed about starting something and getting momentum and knowing I'm going to need to break it.
Yeah.
And even if I do start it, whatever that thing is, it's just going to crush my momentum for the day.
Yeah.
Are you the same way?
Yeah, I know for me, like, even like when I have those days where I just have the whole thing blocked off, even like if anything like breaks my flow, because like sometimes it's really hard to get into that flow, like I get irritable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost like, I don't know. Like, it's just kind of like my brain is so in here that anything that distracts me from that just is going to make me want to like snap at whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
Like, and like you said, like if I have a meeting, I try not to schedule meetings in the middle of the day anymore just because of that, like specific,
Yeah, 100%.
I think of it as like open road. Like, I think of it like if I have something, if I can get that meeting done and then have open road in front of me, that's better than if I have like open road in front of me, but there's like an obstacle at some point.
Yes. The other thing to note that we did not set an end time. So we really said we're committing to the day, but we didn't say, well, I've got a dinner reservation at 6 p.m. or I have to, we really left it open. And I think that was really cool about it was we left the day open-ended and we really worked until we got to a point of like, okay, we're good. We've got a game plan going forward. So I think that's really important to that point. You're not stressing about the 1 p.m. looming meeting trying to work in the morning.
What was collaboration like, especially when you guys are like really focused on? Because I'm assuming you had like we have to check this box off, we have to check this off. So like, how did you guys collaborate so you weren't getting in each other's way? You know what I mean? Like as you're trying to get stuff done. So
I just have to say that one of the keys to the success of why Sarah and I blitz so well together is because of how complementary we are. I think if there were two people that were like me in a room, you would have like fireworks of ideas, so many of them, but you would walk out of that room, nothing would be accomplished, nothing would be organized, like nothing would have actually gotten done outside of like everyone feeling really good about spitting out all of their ideas. And I think Sarah being there is what allowed the way that I kind of naturally work to flourish. And I think that me being there helps Sarah to think outside of the way that she normally would if she was just kind of like focused on a project. So again, kind of back to like the the right kind of collaborations. The way that Sarah and I tend to work together is that, like, I actually, I think Sarah, more than anybody else that I know, is the one that encourages me to just like go be the way I am, right? Like, we get into a room, she's like, where's the whiteboard? Jeff, here's a marker. Go do your thing. And it's great because like I don't have to feel any kind of way about it. It's not like we're competing over it. She's like, I've got my color-coded planners and every type of pen that I possibly need. Like, and I'm going to take pictures of this and like, don't worry, just go. I got this. And it's like it's like basically like walking on a tightrope, but I've got a giant net underneath of me when Sarah and I are working together. So I think that's part of what makes it nice. And because of that, like, even though that I'm kind of like out there in that way and I'm not necessarily organized in the way that Sarah is, I'm very organized in my thinking about going through this project. So like we went through this like extremely methodically. We were building a business. So I was like, all right, what's a business? We're like, there's marketing, there's sales, there's operations, there's finance, there's accounting. Like we have to think through a lot of different pieces here. Let's talk about marketing. So let's talk about content. Let's talk about blogs, frequently asked questions, lead magnets. Let's talk about sales. We have sales resources, sales funnels, sales process, sales automation. So I started going through and kind of just mind mapping out everything that we needed to do. And Sarah took all of that and started like neatly organizing it into buckets and saying, okay, what of these things is most important? What do we need to do first? And then we would just like erase the whiteboard and we would start going on it again. And I would say, okay, great. Let's start with the things that are most important. What does it take to have a business? And we knew for us to get started, we basically needed two things. We needed a thing that we sell and we needed a price to sell that thing for, right? So we said, what do we offer? What do we do? What don't we do? What are our roles and responsibilities going to be in this? And what are we going to charge people for? And that was sort of like our starting point. We did like a lot of stuff that first day, but that's kind of how I remember the first day shaking out, was like very like, she sat at the table, I went up to the whiteboard, and we just went.
How did you guys decide what it was that, because you said what this business is and what this business isn't, how did you guys make those decisions?
I think we Jeff and I work well together too, because we come at this from such different backgrounds, and Jeff had been on an agency side. He understands some of those major pain points, worked with a ton of different clients. I've also been on the client side receiving services from a vendor. So I think what's cool about that discussion on what are we going to do and what are we not going to do is, again, finding a partner who's going to help you think about this from different angles, right? Because we threw ideas out that one of us said, that's not going to work for this reason or that reason. So I think, again, that collaboration piece is really important. The complementary piece is really important, but it did take some discussion, and I think being patient with it also. You know, we threw some stuff up. You know, we went to get something to eat and come back, and then we go, oh, wait, why did we put that up there? That doesn't make any sense. So I think it's about being creative and letting ideas flow. But then also, you know, the me's of the world who kind of want things more black and white to say, okay, Jeff, if that is exactly what we're doing, and we're going to do that by next Wednesday. I also need to be a little more open in the creativity phase to say, okay, we're just kind of figuring this out right now. Let's talk this through. Let's sit on it, come back and talk about it some more. So I think it's about being creative, and also just letting your past experiences and the past experience of the person that you're working with really come through, because that's what shapes your business. You know, that's what people are actually hiring you for, is your experience.
Yeah, and to that point, and Tim, I think that when you and I go through this process, this will probably come up, especially because we have a third party that we would be including in this for some things, is like, I think both of us had a real willingness to say, no, I'm not interested in doing that. And I think that's really important. Again, like whether you're building a business or whether you're creating a lead magnet or whatever you're doing, understanding like what is a thing that you can unequivocally say yes to versus what are things that you don't want to. Like, for instance, I don't really like, this is going to sound really weird, I don't like doing things. I like strategizing and thinking and advising and coaching and helping other people to facilitate doing things. But like, I get lost in the granular details of a thing. I can think about granular details of things. So I can think through the most minute details of a strategy and of a product. and a project, but I have a real hard time when it's up to me to execute on those granular details because I just get distracted and I can't stay in it. So
just so I know what you're talking about, can you give me an example of granular detail?
Yeah, so like just a very real example, like in Super Productive, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the areas where I know that I'm valuable to this partnership is that I can conceptualize what a company needs based upon their various limitations. I can basically help design their productivity project management strategy. But if it came to actually setting up their Asana, I would do a bang up job, an amazing job at like 30% of it. Because I just don't have the follow through and the attention to, like, I'll miss things. I will absolutely miss things. Whereas like Sarah has the entire checklist. Sarah is like the person in the ICU who makes sure that everybody washes their hands and goes through every step so that there are no infections and everything's good. Like, I'm the person that causes an outbreak. So in our business, like
that's a bad joke during a global pandemic.
Okay, maybe it is, but it's still a good analogy.
It is, because
it's true. Like, you don't want people like me. Like, you maybe want people like me, like, coming up with what that checklist is, designing the strategy, and like, being the person who's going to do it day to day. I just don't do it, right? So that's what I mean is, like, if Sarah was like, okay, so for part of this is we're going to equally split this particular type of work, or like another one is Sarah does the productivity power hours and the productivity coaching. I don't have as much of an interest in productivity from a coaching standpoint as Sarah does, nor the empathy is, I guess, the best way of putting it. Like, Sarah is extremely empathetic about how different people relate to different tools and how they deal with productivity. And I'm a little bit authoritarian about it. Like, I'm very open in like how to strategically build a thing. But like, when it comes to coaching someone, I'm like, just follow the freaking system, follow the rules. And Sarah just has a better tolerance for it. So like, I guess the sum total of this whole rant I'm on right here is that, like, we knew what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And we didn't argue over it. And I don't think either of us tried to push each other into a box that we weren't going to be comfortable with. We tried to say, okay, knowing my strengths and knowing your strengths, what is a service offering? What is a set of things that we could do where we all stay in our genius zone and we don't have to do anything else that we don't want to do?
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, just that it's so critical when you're forming a partnership, a joint venture, a business, whatever it is. Like, you've got to know those things about the other person. And Jeff and I could fully do these things on our own. And in fact, we were for a few months. And then we really realized we have a complementary skill set here that will better serve the client if they get both of us. And I think that that's what's really cool, is that we saw this thing, and thus that was the reason for going down this whole rabbit hole of creating this entity here. So I think that's what's really interesting, is don't force a partnership. Don't feel like you have to do a partnership. This thing came about very organically when I said, I do it this way. And he goes, well, I do it this way. And we go, oh, well, the clients would really benefit if they got to do it both ways with both of us. How amazing. And thus this idea really was born. So I think it's just really important to know your weaknesses or where you don't want to be working in certain areas, and find the right partners to help you in those areas. Like, fill in the gaps of your weaknesses. And it's a really cool way to do something together.
So something that I'm curious about is you guys sell service, it operates a lot like a product, in the sense that you guys built these systems and then you can sell these systems to your clients and then make customizations, almost as if it's like a piece of machinery that you're selling, like an assembly line, right? So like, that seems like something that's like perfect for like a business that you're going to develop, like one over like at least like build the foundation of the business in a single day, and then also like with only 2 people, you know what I mean? Like, you guys have a relatively like effective, simple offering, and then you can spend your time on like building your pipeline and making changes and doing stuff like that. So do you think that the system that you implemented here would still work for less templated business models, if that makes sense?
Sarah, do you want to comment on it first?
Yeah, I do, because I think the concept of finding the right partner, finding the goal, finding the time to work on something, dedicating, uninterrupted time without distraction to that goal, I think that can work for almost any, goal, project, business that you're trying to create.
Yeah, and I would add that, the way that I see it, almost everything is a system or a process. You can make anything almost into a system or a process. So the process that we went through to blitz this work absolutely will work for other things, because at its core, it's find two people everybody that's involved align around what you're trying to accomplish, make sure everybody knows what their specialized skill set is, do the most important things, and then make sure you get it done. Actually get it done and publish it, right? So if you do those things, what can't you accomplish that way? But in terms of the business that we started, if you look at it from could you do with any kind of business? Well, yeah, just figure out what is the system of that business, because every business can be broken, especially a business that's going to scale, has to be broken down to a certain set of core kind of foundational functions that they offer, right? So every business either offers a service or a product or both, or a marketplace, right? So, okay, what do you offer? What are the boundaries of that? What do you say yes to and what do you say no to? How do you price it? What are the customizations you would offer to the, 80% of projects that you wind up doing that are standard across the board? What are the 20% of customizations you're willing to do? And then what do you charge for it? It can all be broken down and you can do it all. I would say if you're going in to try and build it over the course of a weekend, follow this exact same blueprint. Figure it out what it is that you want to do, come up with a name for it, find out who's going to be involved with it and try to play to each other's strengths, and then commit to getting something done by the end of that session that you're together. And it might take you more than 2 sessions. The whole reason why I think Sarah and I could do it in 2 is because we have such a good chemistry and such good complement in what we have. And I don't think that's going to happen with every team up. I don't think every team up that I ever do is going to be a 48-hour turnaround to launch it. I think sometimes it's going to be longer. There's more complications. But I still think that it's about coming to an agreement about what is it that we offer and what do we charge for it? How are we going to split that revenue? How are we going to deliver the service? Those are all questions that just need to be answered and put down on paper and agreed upon. And then you have a business essentially.
I think the other thing that's important as you're thinking about doing this is really you've got to say how you're actually feeling. You've got to state your concerns. If there's anything, financially at stake, I think it's just really important that you don't, push that stuff down. You don't hide those emotions. You have to be really honest. And this is the time to do it. You don't wait 6 months to say, Jeff, I'm uncomfortable with how this is happening. No, now is the time to say, how are we going to handle this? If this happens, how are we going to deal with it? So if you're feeling something, just please talk about that openly with the person that you're trying to work with. It's just critical. And being honest, I'm worried about this, or I don't really like how you're handling that, or can you give me some constructive feedback here? I'm open to it. I think having those really open, honest conversations you have to be able to have those with any type of partnership. I mean, marriage, dating, life, business, this is really important.
Yeah.
So just to dive a little bit in, can you guys tell me a little bit about what you've been doing since launch? Once you got through those 2 days, how did you view building on what you had started?
Yeah. So in order to answer that, let me just very quickly go through the remainder of what we did in those 2 days so you realize what's left. So in the day one, basically we defined what is the business, what are we going to do, what are we not going to do. We designed our packages, we assigned pricing to it. Within the packages, we figured out who's going to do what, what are the accountabilities. For instance, Sarah doing a lot of the coaching and a lot of the setup, both of us doing the strategy, both of us doing onboarding, tag teaming on workshops. So getting really clear on who does what. And we tried to figure out what's the revenue split for things. So truth be told, Sarah does 80% of the work for Super Productive. And as a result, she gets 80% of the revenue from it. I come in and I do the 20% that I like doing and that I'm good at. And then I walk away. And then Sarah handles basically the rest of it. So we basically figured that out, the packaging, the pricing, all that stuff. Then we built the website. Literally that day, we wireframed out the entire website. We mapped out the entire user journey. And granted, this is not deep UX research. We're not doing what you do, Tim. We were just okay, the basics of a website, what do we need? We need a header with an image or a video. We need a button that's a call to action. We need that button to be replicated across. We need to tell them what the process is for working with us. Like we had like our basics of like, business made simple, marketing made simple, story brands / 20 other different frameworks that are out there. And we melded them together. We built the website. We basically linked the domain and the hosting. We put up a template. We mapped it out. We built it out that day. And we wrote like 90% of the website copy. We planned out where the lead magnet would go, though we didn't build it yet. We gave it a title. And that was something we did afterwards. And then we actually, in addition to writing out all the copy for the website, we actually, while I was writing the copy for the website, Sarah wrote all of the emails for the drip sequence that would come out of the lead magnet. So literally, we did these, what we would call kind of like mini sprints inside of the sprint. So inside of the blitz, we did like mini blitzes. So we basically looked at each other and we were like, okay, for the next hour, I'm going to be writing website copy and you're going to write emails. Good, go. And we set a timer and we just went at it. And I wrote all the website copy and she wrote all the emails and we were like done in an hour. We had it all. Then she checked my work. I checked her work. And we basically launched the website in its like beta form that day. And we left that day having completed just a whole ton of work, but we had a really clear plan on what we were going to do next. So then when we got into day 2, actually, even before we got into day 2, this is important. We actually already had clients because we had a package, we had packages and we had pricing. So as leads were coming in, we were like, here's our package, here's our pricing. And we signed clients. And what was really important about that, and this is why I made such a point of like the do what's important first part, because we could learn from each of those client experiences. So as we got those clients, we were like, oh crap, we totally forgot blah. Or like, oh, we totally misquoted this because we didn't have enough information in the discovery to put together a proper proposal. Oops. And basically what we did in that in between was as those things came up, we just tried to kind of deal with them kind of as they came up, and we assigned and divided and conquered the work based upon kind of where we thought there were core areas of strength and where somebody like kind of volunteered. Like there was one of the things that I looked at was like our sales funnel. And I was like, yo, we can automate this. So I took my system brain and I was like, all right, let me figure out how I can automate this whole process. And I boiled it down to the fact that basically like we're having 2 meetings potentially, sometimes just one with a prospect, and the rest of our entire funnel, the entire sales process is completely automated. Now, it doesn't mean impersonal. It just means that the repeatable functions are handled by robots. So I did
What's an example of some repeatable functions that people might want to automate?
So for instance, let's say we have a qualifying call with somebody that comes in. And we're going to get to know them in that call, 15 minutes. We're just going to find out what they're trying to do, let them know a little bit about us. And if at the end of that call, they're like, yeah, we want to know more. And we're like, yeah, we think you're cool. We want to do work together. We would send them an email that says, hey, schedule a time for this proposal meeting. Here's some things to think about in the meantime. Well, that's the same things we're going to say every time. Schedule a call and think about these things. It's going to be the same thing every time because we want people to come with certain information at the proposal meeting. So we just automated that. We said basically when we move someone from this stage of the pipeline to this stage, automatically send that out. And then after they schedule that meeting, it puts them into the next stage of the pipeline. We have our conversation. And based upon what they come back to us with, whether it's one of our standard packages or custom, they would either move to an automated stage of the funnel where they get a proposal that meets the exact package that we talked about, or it comes back to us and automates and notifies us that we need to put together a custom proposal. So, and there's more to it, but like that's what I did in the in-between. And what Sarah did was she finished off a number of the other things that we just needed to have tightened up. So like she created the entire lead magnet basically. And then we got it created through Fiverr. We got it designed. And then she made a bunch of updates to the website, wrote a bunch of other emails that we needed to have written. So like we kind of divided and conquered in between so that when we got to day 2, it was basically the reason we even did a day 2 was because we felt like we kind of like fell a little bit out of sync. Like we were working asynchronously and divided and conquered. So we needed to come back together and be like, okay, where the hell are we? I had built this entire insanely complex automated funnel. And Sarah was like, okay, I literally have no idea what you're talking about. You need to show me. So we got together and I put the whole thing on a whiteboard and I drew out, this is what happens at every stage. And here's what needs to happen for that to be completed. So then we got back on the same page. So now we're here. So that was my short catching you up to like what we did over those days. So now we're here. So now we have a business, Sarah and I. It's called Super Productive. We have a website that's totally live, totally complete. It's got a lead magnet on it. If somebody subscribes to Lead Magnet, there's an automated 6-email sequence that's going to talk to them about various different aspects of the problem that they're trying to solve in productivity. And it's going to lead them and give them the opportunity to schedule a call with us. And if they do, cool, sounds good. And if they don't, cool, no big deal. Hope you got some value out of those emails. The people that come in either through the Asana Certified Pro search engine or through our website go into this process, and we now have a really good process for qualifying people that come in and or having a conversation with them that allows us to get the exact information we would need to not under or overquote them and give them a proposal for the exact right package that would solve their exact needs in their project management system. So that's where we are, and we've had several clients at this point. We've built 3 or 4 Asana implementations at this point, and that's since May. And we're starting to systematize even more parts of our business and really get this thing we're 2 people, but I think at this point, my kind of gut tells me we could probably handle 5 or 6 projects simultaneously before we're kind of tapped out. But that'd be 5 or 6 projects simultaneously where we're building these systems that could help these companies kind of like, completely take the limits off their potential.
I think too, just that was
Sarah,
a lot.
have you,
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that was a lot of stuff. And if you're sitting here going, how did you do that in a weekend? Just to be clear, we did that when we stepped away. We took that day and walking away from day one, we had a product we could sell. We had a way to get clients. And I think that's a key takeaway from today. We knew we wanted to do some of this automation because we're process people. We thrive on process. But that foundation of day one was, can we make money? Can we get clients? Do we have the tools to do that? Leaving this blitz day one, and we did. And are we able to help clients in the best way we know how today? Yes. Now, since then, we have worked with those clients. We have figured out, a little more about what they really need, what's really going to help them, additional tools that we need to build for them based on their real problems they're having. So I think we did take some time in between to figure that out, but we did that really somewhat independently, Jeff and I, and then we came together for this day too to resync, because again, we learned so much in that initial time between that first day and having clients. But I think that's what I really want to hone in for people is like, get up, get running, get this thing out the door, because you think you know what people need, but until you start working with clients and beta test some of this, you really don't know. So making it perfect and having all the automation and the perfect sales funnel, you don't need all that. Jeff and I developed that after we had a service and a product that we could sell. So I think that's just a really important point. And then, you're never going to be done. We're never going to be done building this thing. It's going to always be a work in progress and evolving, but we were done enough to be able to get it out there and learn from it.
That's such a good call out, because we named this episode how we built it over a weekend. And like realistically, the business wasn't built on the second Blitz Day. Second Blitz Day just improved what was actually a functioning, operating, revenue generating business that we built in one Blitz Day. Yes. Because we handled the only and important critical things to launch a website, which basically was like, what do we do? What does it cost? And is there a way for people to buy it from us? We had the website, we had the Asana Certified Pro pages, we had a package, and we had packages and we had pricing, and we knew how we were going to deliver it. So that was a business. You have a business at that point. Yeah. Everything else is us starting to dig in and refine it and make it better and use our experience to improve it. But we had a business in a weekend.
So I just want to throw out there that all the things you're talking about, you guys know this pretty deeply, because Sarah, you ran a large part of a business before, and Jeff, like Sarah said, you did a lot of agency works and you worked with a lot of businesses and saw how they worked and how to improve them and stuff like that. But what's like a like just so people can put something in like a realistic perspective for themselves if they've never built their own business before or they don't know it as well as you, like where should they start?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You got to start with the problem that you solve. Like, how do you help people? Because at the end of the day, right, we are in people-to-people businesses. We are humans helping humans. And you have to be able to help people with a problem. And their problem has to be big enough that they will pay you to fix it. So, you know, there's all kinds of businesses you can start. I mean, maybe I don't know how to needlepoint and I want to, and I need to find someone and pay someone to help me learn how to needlepoint, right? This can be anything you can think of, but the problem has to be strong enough for the customer. It has to be painful enough that they will pay for it. And then I think, you know, from that, it's really thinking about, well, what is special about what I know about that thing? What is special about me? How can I do this in a way that's different from how someone else is doing it? You know, what unique gift or ability do I have to bring to this situation to help the person solve that pain point that they're having? And I think if you can answer those two questions, you can start a business. The other part of it is just technically you need to have like QuickBooks or Stripe, or you need people to be able to pay you in some fashion that's not, you know, don't Venmo, you know, make it a professional way that people can pay you. So I think, you know, what problem do you solve? Who are you solving it for? What are you uniquely bringing to that? And then, you know, technically, how do they pay you to do that?
Yeah, I would echo it almost the same. In my head, the language around it is a little bit different, but I would say it's very, very similar ideas. Like, I think, what difference do you want to make in the world? What are you good at? What will people pay you for? And based upon how much money you want to make, you got to kind of gauge after that, like, well, is this a good idea? Like, if you're like, oh, my favorite thing in the world is to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and I want to make $1 million a year, like, maybe, but probably an uphill climb, right? But in a very practical example, somebody who's never started a business before, think of a very, very like low barrier to entry business you could start, like coaching. What could you coach people about? How much do you think you could charge people for that coaching? What is the going rate for coaches? You could start that business easily in a weekend with the same process we figured out. Figure out who's the people that you coach, what do you help them on, what are you going to charge for it, what are your packages, stand up a website and go out there and start trying to sell yourself as a coach. You've got a business.
I think the other big thing you need also is just a bit of conviction for why you're doing that, because again, this is not easy. This is a lot of work. We've given up a lot of hours on our weekend to do this, and I think if you don't feel compassionate enough and willing enough to put some blood, sweat, sometimes tears into this stuff, you know, what are you doing it for? So I think the other big piece is, you know, think about, do I believe in this enough? Do I want this enough to do some of this hard work? Because we did it quickly, but that doesn't mean it was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also once again, like that, like the fact that you did it in a weekend doesn't speak to your years of experience doing other things that like made you guys really effective at putting this up really quickly. And just like, I'm sure even going forward, how you're going to develop it, like, you know, if we had time, I have a ton of other questions. Like, you know, how are you getting clients? What are you doing with those clients? Well, like, okay, well, if that's the case, like, how are you guys thinking about developing, like, what your marketing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you guys doing for marketing right now?
Well, I can just give a couple things. Like, we are planning to do some webinars, and really speaking specifically to certain types of groups that we can help. So, for instance, Sarah had mentioned we kind of come from slightly different backgrounds on this, but we have overlapping skill sets in the world of productivity and project management. Sarah's comes from, you know, being like on the client side, whereas I'm more vendor side. My background is mostly in agencies. So when I think about the problems of productivity, I see it through the lens of someone who ran an agency, was at an agency, has worked with agencies, and I'm uniquely qualified in this case to talk about what I've seen at agencies that's consistent as a problem. So I want to help more agencies because I know how stressful it is to be at one. And I'm trying to come up with ways that I can make sure I get in front of agencies and show them how, I don't want to say how easy it is, but like how much easier their life could be if they if they had better systems. Because it's true, if you have better systems and you're working on important work and you have more visibility into workload management and what tasks are getting dropped, like you're going to go home and have less stress because you're going to feel like you got more accomplished, and you're going to adjust your business so that you're not as stressed out all the time. So I'm working on putting together a webinar for agency owners, and we actually have the full outline for that, and we're planning to do that soon. We just we have a contact who's going to help give us a platform for that. So that's something that I've been working on, is that, and then also thinking about the frequently asked questions that appeals to that audience. Now, Sarah's been thinking from the alternative standpoint, but in a very complementary way.
Yeah, and I also think it's about talking about it, right? So I had a few networking calls today, and I brought up this offering because it's actually a very tangible offering. It's a software that people have pain with that they need solved, right? So it's very tangible. And so it's a natural thing to bring up in conversation. Oh, also, I'm certified in this, and my business partner and I came up with a program to help companies with this. So again, I think with anything, you're sometimes afraid to talk about it until it's ready or it's perfect, or you're shy to put it out to your network. Like, shout it from the rooftops. People aren't going to know you're doing something. They think about you in a certain way, and people think about me as a productivity coach. No one's going to automatically think, oh, maybe she helps people with Asana. No, I have to tell people that I help people with Asana. So I think it's about getting it out there, sharing it on email, social media, the different networks and platforms that we're a part of. And like Jeff said, doing some webinars about it, offering it to small groups. It's just about talking about it, really.
I will say that this is, among all the things that I do, this is one of the ones that I find is actually much easier to talk about than other things. And I think that the unique characteristic of it is that it has a defined short timeline. Mm-hmm. So like it's almost a product, because it takes 3 to 8 weeks maybe to work with any one client and like literally completely transform how they do project management and find tasks and manage their teams. Like 3 to 8 weeks, that's all it takes. And like we come in and we do this thing for a set price. So what I like about that is that like I've been reluctant in the past for like anything where I might be working with a client for a year or longer, because it's like there's just so much it's such a heavy conversation. Whereas I feel like with what we're doing here, one, it's a need that almost every business has. Are you productive enough? Are you getting the right things done? Are you working the right amount of hours? Are you burned out? Like, we can help like virtually any type of client. So it's really easy to talk about. And because it has defined scope, it's not like I'm like, hey, do you want to sign up for like this 2-year contract with us? And like, 50%, it's like not a big deal. It's like not even an expensive offering. Like, it really is extremely reasonably priced what we're doing, and it's short term. So it makes it really easy for the sales conversation. Not that I have a problem with sales conversations to begin with, but like I find these to be some of the easiest we have. It's like, this is going to be 3 to 5 weeks. It's going to cost this much. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very definable. And I think outcomes are very definable also. We're going to give you some templates to use. We're going to physically build that in there. Like, you're going to log in and see something that we built for you. You're going to see dashboards. You're going to be able to track people's workloads. We're going to help you with priorities. And then we're going to do coaching on the back end. So I said to someone, I was talking to a gentleman from Chicago this morning, and I said, it's not like we're going to throw you in Lake Michigan after the software is implemented and say, good luck getting back to the shore. No, we're going to put you in a rowboat and help you get there. Like, we're going to not leave you hanging with the software. We've got coaching, we've got productivity power hours to help you succeed. Because again, that comes from experience. Jeff and I saw customers getting onboarded and then they were left alone. It's really important that they take the time to actually use the system and make it work for them, really forming a habit around using it. So I think that's really critical. And hopefully that helps spread with word of mouth back to the marketing conversation, because we're not leaving you hanging. We're going to make sure you know how to use this system and use it well.
I feel like there should be some inspirational music playing in the background right now.
I mean, I could do it. I have it somewhere.
Yeah. So can you guys give me just like a book, podcast, something that you might recommend to somebody if somebody's interested in just like like hitting the ground running and starting their own business?
Starting their own business.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeff. Maybe you know one for starting your own business. I found Deep Work by Cal Newport is just a great book on the topic of focused work, diving in, setting these blitz times. I think that's really critical. He really goes into understanding why we need this deep work and why it's so important to our work life. So Deep Work by Cal Newport.
Cool.
I have a bunch because when I look at this business, I see it as sort of the product of multiple different ideas kind of mashing together. So it's tough to give you just one, but I'll give you just one, and then I'm going to tell you a bunch of others. But I would say for anybody looking to start a business, the first thing you should probably read is The E-Myth Revisited. The E-Myth is a classic book by Michael Gerber. I think it came out in the 70s. And it's all about this entrepreneurial myth that essentially, like, you're good at a thing, you start a business, you make money, and it's all great. It's more about, like, how do you think of your business like a system, and how do you build that system to scale, and how do you build your business as if you were going to sell it? I mean, what Sarah and I have already built, we could sell this business. We could, like, literally sell it to somebody else and be like, you can run this now. It's got everything that you need. So I think the E-Myth is what got me thinking in that way. And I'm reading a book now called Systemology that's sort of a in the same spirit of that. But I would say that what caused this blitz day to work in my mind is a combination of several different books that I've read over time and what makes this business work as well. So one is GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen, which Sarah actually, her COAT system nicely actually envelops the GTD methodology and expands upon it and makes it more practical and more usable, which is beautiful because I've been a GTD adherent for years. And I think COAT has really supplanted it in my mind as a better system. So GTD is one of them. Essentialism, which I think is a perfect pairing book with Deep Work. Essentialism is essentially about saying no to everything that's unimportant and only focusing on that which is important. And then, of course, the E-Myth, Systemology, and then the final one would be Pumpkin Plan. The Pumpkin Plan is by Mike Michalowicz, and it's essentially about the idea of how prize-winning pumpkins work, is that essentially you have to get rid of all of the pumpkins that are not going to be a prize-winning pumpkin so that all of the nutrients in the pumpkin patch go to your prize-winning pumpkin. Same idea for having a client or for growing your businesses. You should focus on the clients that make you the most money, that you like doing the work with the most. So, like, the idea is to shed all of the work that you don't want and keep feeding more of the work that you do want in hopes of attracting more of the work that you want. So, how we're building this business is like, we're really trying to rely upon the types of clients that we take on and the word of mouth that spreads, and how that, helps us to build this business throughout the Asana community.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, guys, thank you for sharing your exciting new business opportunity venture, and I'm looking forward to seeing it grow. And we should check back in in a year from now to see how your business is doing.
Yeah, man. Maybe we'll have Sarah host when we talk about our secret project.
Yeah, super ...
Coming soon.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next week. And Sarah's going to just kidding. All right, I'll talk to you later.
See you, everyone.